Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Better the Pond Pondcast, the Flying V edition, where we talk to incredible people who are creating impact and ripples on the pond. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions, where we believe that everyone is not a duck, but that is what makes them awesome. Today, my guest is Reuben Kamp. He's the founder and CEO of Darkhorse Tech, an intimate yet powerful software company that supports the dental industry on an international capacity. Reuben is a genius, although he denies it, but he has his degree in biology, was 3 times on the dean's list, left the dentistry space to then become an entrepreneur and start Darkhorse Tech, all by the age of 24. Reuben is extremely curious, driven, competitive, and passionate, and through all that provides a customer service to his clients and his team that is absolutely world-class. 3 words that describe Reuben: integrity, communication, and commitment. Thank you, Reuben and Darkhorse Tech, for everything that you do to better the pond. Reuben Kamp, CEO, Darkhorse Tech, hailing all the way from Ithaca, New York. Now, I know, Reuben, about you. You're a lover of business. You're a lover of your wife, and I mean that from don't take that the wrong way.
Both
A lover of both, a lover of dogs, and a lover of a cold IPA.
Cold adult beverage.
Absolutely. And I had met you through your peer advisor groups at the Black Sheep Group with your fearless leader, John Schmidt. And so we met, and I said, here's a guy that I have to have on the podcast. Genius mind, great guy, right? Unbelievable business person. You know what? Reuben Kamp, thank you so much for taking the time out to be a guest on my Better the Pond podcast.
Hey, thank you, Warren. Genius we'll save to the end. We'll let the listeners decide on that one. I do not proclaim to be a genius. I proclaim to be a curious person that cares about business and growth, and try to stay humble, right? Be open to ideas. So I think that's why we're talking.
Absolutely. I'll still say genius. So humble, yes. Genius as well. Very, very intelligent. All right. So Reuben, can you, before we start off, can you just sort of tell us a bit about Darkhorse Tech? Tell us about your company and what you do.
Yeah. So real quick, at our last company retreat, I actually had one too many IPAs, and I got up to give a speech to our company. The whole company's there. If you can imagine, there's 70 of us. And I'm not feeling so good from the night before, because I went to the dinner and then the bar after, and then the second bar after, yada, yada, yada. And I introduced our company, had a brain fart. I called ourselves the Dork Horses. So internally, we're now the Dork Horses because of that moment. So just a little Freudian brain fart there. But sorry, get down to business. I went to school. I thought I wanted to be a dentist. I have a biochemistry, can't see it on the virtual background here, but I have a biochemistry degree from University of North Carolina. Go Tar Heels. My dad's a dentist. I just thought, hey, this is my path. And there was a business to take over, right? Junior year, already passed organic chemistry, and got my A's, and I'm working in the dental residency program, right? Because you gotta suck up to all the professors that are going to give you the grades later on.
I'm gonna catch you off right here, Reuben. See this now, to tell the listeners, this is the first podcast where my guest did not get the questions ahead of time, and I said, you know what? Let's just wing it. So you're already ahead of the game. So I'm gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Okay.
I knew this was gonna be fun right out of the gate. So tell us, first of all, the question is, right? Tell us about Darkhorse, the Dark Horses within Darkhorse. Tell us a bit about the company, and then I'm going to get into your story.
This is fair. And the reason I did that, it's really hard to separate me from the company, right? It's started this company in 2012. It was just me. As I kind of alluded to, we have 70 employees. So a lot has happened in the last 11 years. I was working corporate IT for 3 years, left, started Darkhorse, was working for a multitude of different businesses, but I was really getting a lot of dental offices. So that was like let's say 80% of our business or more was dental. And as we grew, obviously I hired employees. We branched out of upstate New York and went national, and then kept doubling down on the dental space. A couple different milestones. We started doing startups, which are nationwide. And we started a cloud division 3 years ago, which really helps us get larger dental groups on platform that really are in multi-site locations. So Darkhorse, dental specific IT, HIPAA compliance, security, software support for dentists all over the United States. And I'm the CEO of that company.
So all the back end of how a dental office operates on the IT space,
yeah,
is what Darkhorse does.
Yes, and I believe it's PIPEDA. It's HIPAA in the US, but it's like PIPEDA or something in Canada. We have a couple of clients up your way, Warren.
Do you know where they are off the top of your head?
Yukon.
Oh, are you kidding? You're way up.
Whitehorse.
Yeah, Whitehorse.
Yeah, Whitehorse. Yeah.
That's very cool. You're internationally based company now. This is fantastic. Right.
We got Canada and the Cayman Islands, and then we're mostly in the United States, but yes.
That is very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, so here we go, Ruben, because now you already alluded to this, but we're gonna take you back. So now, Ruben, what got you from being a gosling? Now I'm talking, where were you hatched? Where were you born? Where your life started? Okay. So what got you from being a gosling to leaving the nest? When I say leaving the nest, either that, you get kicked out because you're a bad kid and they just said, Reuben, go away, or you decided to leave on your own, right? To go and, live life, right, in your own capacity, to where you are today.
Sure.
So, Reuben Kamp, what is your backstory?
Well, I gotta go farther back in college for the hatchling.
This is like that. This is where you're hatched. I want, like, where did you start life?
I was born in Ithaca, New York, where I am right now. Not too far away. The hospital's right across the lake here. Dad is a dentist. Mom's a psychotherapist. So fun mixture of parents there. My life has really been dominated by sports, I guess is the way to say it. I've always been probably not like speed was never my thing. It was more a mental game. So in hockey, I was the center because I couldn't be out of position, which was great. And in baseball as a pitcher, right? Always, in control, kind of out there by myself. So honestly, you could say most of my childhood is competition, right? Is thinking about spatial relations. As far as like hockey goes, it's way more of a angles, teamwork, and baseball is more of an individualistic sport. So kind of I got both sides, but that competitive edge really has carried me through business and my life. So I grew up in a small town. It's a college town. It's got Cornell and Ithaca College here, so it's a lot of young people, a lot of change, just because with the changing of the semesters and everything, you always get a fresh crop of people over here. And in high school, I actually got an opportunity to play baseball in college. So I was recruited to play over in Buffalo. So the first 2 years of my collegiate career, I was studying undergrad, my biochemistry or pre-dental degree, and also playing first base and pitching for a college team. And then I injured my shoulder, and I was like, all right, now I want to go to real college. And I transferred to University of North Carolina and kept studying there. But I got like the big, so I went from a school of like 6,000 to 35,000, huge sports program. And Warren, it turns out when you play hockey in the North and you move south, you're really good at hockey.
Is that just by being in the North alone, or does that have anything to do with talent?
It's because hockey is a novelty to the Southerners. Yes. So you bring that skill set down south. It's almost the opposite of baseball. So I ended up playing hockey and being the captain of the UNC Division II hockey team down there. And that's kind of where it connects to the story I was starting to tell about. Didn't really think I was going to like dentistry from a profession standpoint. Didn't think I wanted to crouch over a small dark crevasse and deal with the general public all day long. So always been interested in technology and fixing computers. And after I graduated, instead of going to dental school right away, I got a job at Benco. It's a national dental company doing IT, and worked there for 3 years before I left and started Darkhorse.
So I want to take you back just a little bit, Ruben. This is a very interesting story. So I got a few questions for you. Going back to sports, because obviously that's a big part of your background, it's a big part of your story. I mean, did you start sports when you were 5-6 years old, getting into hockey kind of thing? And was that you, or was that your dad sort of putting you there, or how did that start?
I don't think I have any recollection of decisions I made at t-ball level. And the we call it mites over here. The kind of the initiation is when you've never played hockey before, and then you graduate to the mites and all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, I think it was just like everyone plays sports where we're from here, right? It seems like everyone plays baseball and at least tries to play hockey at the beginning, and then kind of sifts out the people that have a knack for it and actually like it. So for as long as I can remember, I've just been wired to want to compete.
Was your dad involved in sports when he was younger?
No, he's a very gangly, tall, unathletic person. And my mom is a very tiny human being as well. So no, I don't. There's no.
It was you.
I don't know where it came from.
It was you. It came from you. Any siblings?
I have a sister who's 7 years older than me. She also lives here locally. She's a nurse practitioner at Cornell.
Ah, all right. So both of you are professionals, right? Very professional family.
Very professional.
Very professional family, and hence genius.
Very serious. Very professional.
Very serious. So what growing up in from when you were younger and then going into high school, what was your first job?
Cart wrangler.
What?
A cart wrangler.
A cart wrangler.
And bottle center. You might say engineer. You might not say engineer. I worked at a grocery store, and people got their groceries and left their carts outside, and the wrangling part is stacking all those up and getting them back in there. So cart wrangler. And then the bottle center, when that would get full of people returning their 5-cent, IPAs, I would then have to empty that. Anyway, it was your typical 15-year-old job.
So when they were so it's funny, I was a cart pusher, you were a cart wrangler, so we have that in common. So when you were little, did you even in your teenage years, did you want to go into dentistry, or did you want to go for your own sake, or was it just because your dad was, or what was the driver behind the dentistry field?
My dad is very well regarded in the community for the best of reasons, right? He is empathetic. People come to him for help. Money is secondary to him. It's really about helping people. So it definitely wasn't dentistry. It wasn't like, wow, I want to make people's teeth look straight or beautiful. It was more, looking back and thinking about that, more like, wow, this, what an amazing human being my dad is, and how well respected he is, and I could follow in those footsteps. More so than the actual technical job of drilling on teeth.
Right.
I never really thought about it until I got really close to going to dental school, and then I was like, yeah, maybe I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like that would fulfill me in my life.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting thing, right? You're going down that path, and so was there a defining moment when you knew you just knew that it just wasn't right for you, it wasn't a fit?
Well, it's like, when you take science, you're not going to have as much fun as the rest of the majors at school. Like they're the dramatic arts majors, and they're having a way better time than me. So, I think it was something where I made a decision, I committed to it, and at some point, my third year of undergrad, I finally had the conversation with myself. Still only 20 years old at this point, but like, why? Like, why are you doing this besides not having another pathway, right? And is that a good enough reason? And that kind of I think I just kind of had a sense of uneasiness after I kind of identified that, where I felt like I had to pause, right? And I fulfilled my degree, I graduated, and that, what are you just going to drop out of college? I was that close to finishing the degree, so I was just like, I'm going to get my degree. College is expensive, and I'll figure it out.
And a feather in your cap. And just for my listeners know, 3 times on the dean's list. Going back to my genius statement earlier.
Yeah. The dean's list in organic chemistry. I was very dedicated to getting to where I needed to go until I wasn't.
So let me ask you this, Ruben, and we'll keep moving on. But something that I find really interesting is, getting to know you. Is I know you're very obviously very driven, very in the competition, but you're very entrepreneurially minded. Mm-hmm. Did you see that back in yourself when you were younger?
Other people did. I didn't necessarily think. I don't know if I had the reference point to really think of myself that way. I think my mom always said that I would make a good lawyer. Competition, argumentative. I mean, they're kind of the same thing. So I always loved getting into a good debate. A discussion, that whole thing. Some people are allergic to, tense moments, and I'm just like, hey, that's where the interesting stuff is. Let's dive into it. So no, I mean, I think the entrepreneurial side for me, I self-identify that later. I started Dark Horse at 24, 25 years old. So it's probably when I was starting to get in my 30s, when I kind of identified my brain works in a way where I'm like, wonder if there's a business idea here. Wonder if there's an angle here. I wonder if there's a way to do this better. And that shows up in, like, I have a real estate venture with a local friend here, in a very tactical, tangible sense. But it also shows up in, I'm really interested in other people's businesses and helping them kind of grow themselves, as I know you are, and that's probably one of the reasons we're talking, is we're both very interested in other people.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of questions for you on that, thinking about this. What would you say the number one lesson was that your father taught you?
The number one, while I'm thinking of that, he taught me to always have a cushion, right? So always have like a rainy day fund just in case. So that is something we've always had since day one, is a separate account. Don't look at it. It's there. Just treat it like it doesn't exist, just in case something happens. And that has come into, it's really helped out in one specific scenario where I overhired and needed to draw from that to meet payroll before we corrected that problem, and we've successfully built that back up. The number one thing is integrity, right? You talk about commitment, and it's probably where it comes from. He's one of those people. He's divorced my mom now, but like he would have been married to her and miserable for the rest of his life because he made a commitment, right? It's funny how integrity shows up for different people. For him, commitment is a huge thing. So I mean, for me, my word, my reputation, being transparent with people. Also, then you don't have to remember all the lies you told 10 different people. You don't have to, like, oh, where's my little notebook of lies? It's really nice just to be like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. You want to work together or not? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's authenticity. Cool. So I'm sure of all the with your mom being a psychotherapist and you were probably like analyzed every day, but what was the number one thing that your mom taught you?
Uh, so my dad is like the goofy, fun loving, just, and then she's kind of more the straight man, if you will, of course. Um, she taught me the exact opposite lesson,
Hmm.
right? We talked about committing just for the sake, and you're going to commit to the day you die, no matter how unhappy you are. Uh, she taught me that that's not necessarily the right move, right? That sometimes you need to make a hard decision that's going to make other people maybe not feel so good, but it is the right decision. So I guess to to sum that up, hard decisions sometimes they need to be made, right?
I'm making a note here. Interesting. So so you have both sides of the fence there, so which is quite not a bad blend, really.
No,
Both sides of the fence.
no.
That's very cool. So now take it. I find that fascinating. So take you up to speed of so the time where you went into Dark Horse. I mean, 24 years old. You're an entrepreneur. You're went from dentistry into technology. Biochemistry to technology. There's an interesting bridge there. But what was it that sort of made you go into that world of dentistry, technology, and dark arts at 24 years old? I mean, that's really entrepreneurial.
That's sooner than most,
Yeah.
right? What's nice is that, there was no kids, right? There was nothing tying me down. So it was a really good time to make a really risky move. At the time, my dad said, don't do it. My fiance, who would become my wife, said, don't do it. And that just inspired me more.
I love it.
Like either they were, they were probably just evil geniuses trying to, get into my head so that I would be successful. So I give them a hard time for telling me no, and of course the outcome is the proof in the pudding here. But from a technology standpoint, I was like the nerd's nerd, right? So today, when people play video games, they just log online. But back in my day, the early days, you had to lug your giant CRT monitor over to someone's house and have a table, and you had to then network all the computers together, and everyone had to agree on the game we were playing. And then so I was the all those computer gaming nerds, the guy who networked and fixed and did everything. So I've always been into fixing problems in the technology standpoint. And I know dentists and how they think very well.
Mm.
So when I graduated, I had a connection to that national dental company, and they, for some reason, hired me into an IT position when I had no IT background besides being passionate about it. So that was a nice risk they took on me, and so I carried those two things forward: my real passion being technology, and just my knowledge of the dental industry.
But I think there's another layer in there just from listening to you. And one of the things I find interesting, I was in medicine for 30 years. You were in the dental world. And what's fun with most doctors, dentists, anybody professional like that, is that you learn how to become a dentist, you learn how to become a doctor, you learn how to become a chiropractor, you learn how to become, but no one ever teaches you how to run a business. So you walk in this now, but you really have to be entrepreneurial in order, because you're starting a business, but you have no idea what you're doing. So it's interesting that with you, right, you had the dentistry background knowledge, you had technology background, but the real interest of helping other people grow their businesses. You had the business mind. So there was an interesting another layer in there that you offered.
Not wanting to have a boss was definitely a factor of this.
Yes.
I think a lot of people can probably get along with that. If you have a good boss, let's say if I had a good boss, it probably would have delayed when I eventually left. But I had a bad boss, so I can only be thankful of that in hindsight.
What a gift.
I was very miserable at the time, but hey, I saved a lot of time. So thank you.
Absolutely. I call it the gift in the ugly box, right? Right. The box does not look that appealing, but when you actually open it, there's really something cool inside.
Yeah,
Right. And then then you're grateful rather than, wow, it was a bad boss. No, they actually did you a favor.
that's right. I agree.
Yeah.
Bob,
So
thank you, Bob.
yeah, thank Bob. Exactly. Thank Bob. But one last thing before we'll move on is in the work, of course, where I met you and speaking to your black sheep group and talk about, the Colby index that I use and one of the traits that you have is a long quick start, such as I do, right? So it's all about risks and uncertainty. But if I wanted the best way to get you moving and get you sparked, there it is. He's even got it on his desk. I love it. Is all I have to say is I bet you can't.
Yeah, that is the match.
That's the match,
That's
and
the
then starts
match.
the fire. So it's beautiful. So again, now you can thank your wife and your dad for telling you not to do it, because now they're the ones who actually they're the one who gave you the book of matches and lit
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's some weird delusional thing that I have that I think I'll be immediately good at anything I do,
Mhm.
and it's not true. But it's not. I do honestly believe that in until my rational brain kicks in.
And then you
But
get humbled. But
you can't ignore. It's like it's just weird delusion that I have though, right? That it's like, oh, like if someone challenged me to a sport I've never played before, I'd be like, yeah, I'll beat you.
so I don't know if it's delusional, but hold on. Now let's go down this path for a second. I don't want to get in a rabbit trail, but
Yeah.
a rabbit hole. But interesting enough, if you look back, Ruben, of all the things that people challenge you to do, whatever it was, another sport or whatever it was, right? Did you naturally actually excel at it without really trying that hard?
Mostly yes, but some things you have to try very hard at.
Mhm.
That is definitely what I've learned in growing up is the reason startups exist and can compete against big corporations where everyone works 8 to 5, but they have all the resources known to God, is one person working their ass off can create something awesome.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that's probably honed my vision a little bit is like, yeah, I could do it, but do I want to slave away for 2 years and get really good at it? um, but yeah, I truly believe like there's especially in software, you see this,
Mhm.
right? Where you have like company A, which is one guy in a basement. Company B is hired 100 software developers in India, and the one guy creates a better product than those 100 people. It's like there's so many examples in business of one extremely motivated, it could be a group of people, like we'll call it small versus large.
Mhm.
If everyone is in alignment, if the energy is there, the tirelessness, like you can create something that is better than what's out there.
So I
Like,
want you to hold on that thought, because now again you're segueing me into you didn't have the questions. This is very interesting.
oh,
So please hang on to that thought. Okay.
okay.
Okay. So next question for you, Ruben, is what is the greatest thing, positive or negative, that's happened to you that's ruffled your feathers? And how did you respond to it?
Wow. So this question I wish I had in advance because that has ruffled my feathers. I mean, did ruffled, it doesn't necessarily mean you're mad, right?
Oh,
It could have put a
shook you
chip
up.
on your shoulder, motivated you. It has to be, well, I'm trying to think, like, is it something from high school? Is it something from me starting the business? Because it's like the original shoulder chip is probably the genesis of all of this stuff. And so I think that's what I would lean towards. So basically, growing up, I was very skinny until 10 years old, and then I became a tub of lard. I don't know what happened. I grew later and then it stretched back out, but there was this really so kind of from like seventh grade through junior-ish year of high school, I was overweight, and everyone kind of knows how that goes when you're the fat kid in school. So I learned how to be alone, learned how to fend for myself, learned how to take a joke, learned how to fight back. And so it was a very long ruffling of feathers, but honestly, that is the genesis of the chip on my shoulder.
So how did you respond to that? So I mean, you were obviously, if I may, right? You were the odd duck.
Yeah.
Okay. You were bullied. Right. You isolated. You learned how to be alone. So you probably isolated yourself. And right. And then you were probably angry and frustrated.
Yeah, I honestly, I think I missed the angry thing.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I find this really fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't have like the anger thing, and this is before bullying was like, I don't know, people cared about it. Like, I'm as someone who's been bullied, and I've grown into what I am today because of it. Like, bring on the bullying. Like, create some, flawed human beings that are going to, create something awesome. Like, we shouldn't all be the same people, but that's a conversation for another day. But I did not have the anger. I had this is what's supposed to happen, right? I'm the prototypical, and it doesn't feel good. I don't know. I guess there's got to be a little bit it's more like fear of missing out. Like, what if I look different, I would have had a different life. But then you grow up and you're like, if I had a different life, I would just be maybe just like a moderate, insurance salesman. Like, I don't know what would have happened if my life was easier in that stage of it. But
so what I find interesting about it, and that's what I was saying, that of all the people I talk to, especially successful entrepreneurs on this podcast, it's when you look back, it's what made you the odd duck. And I say that respectfully because we're all weird, right? And then once what made you that is what actually launched you into your future. And sometimes that odd duck piece is we hide behind it, or we're bully, or however we manage it in our own minds. But when you actually launch out of it, that's where your success comes from. And I've seen it over and over and over again. So it's actually that odd duck is actually your strength. That's your superpower, however you want to phrase it.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it's why I have like that. I think most people, as they grow up, right, their friend, their circle kind of shrinks, and you pick and it's, for me, I've always had just a very few, very deep relationships, right? Like, your core, your ride or die people. It's never been like I've never been the person that had 50 friends, right? It was always just like, these are my 3 homies. And we, that's something to do with it.
So then relationship is obviously very important to you, and deep relationship is very important to you.
That's correct.
Yeah. Very cool. So here we go. So you already segued into this already, but I wanted to hold that previous thought. So as you very well know, because when I spoke to your group, that now you're all eventually so much wiser, like geese fly 71% further and faster when flying in the V formation. You know that now.
That's right.
So what do you think is the secret to getting a team flying in that V formation?
Well, Warren, we're in customer service, so it's not. We have products that we support, it's software, security products, stuff like that. But a lot of what we do is communication with clients, right? And when you hire service technicians, they're very passionate about and very defensive, right? How to get people flying in the right direction is, you need to educate everyone to step back and think, what is the client's expectation, right? I know you're trying to do your best, but if you can imagine what this looks like from the client's point of view. So I have surrounded myself with a group of people that are able to hold 2 thoughts in their head at the same time, right? We have great people that work for us. We need to be passionate about them. We need to defend them. And sometimes the client has a good point. Right, it's your business reflected back towards you. So you get a lot of people that are not single-minded, that are open to ideas, just like I am, right? I think I walk into pretty much any topic thinking like, I know I don't have the whole story. I might be able to learn something from this, right? It's not like I'm definitely, we talk about what's the book, mindset, right? Fixed mindset, growth mindset. I'm way into the growth mindset, where it's like, yeah, I am a 1 out of 10 at this, but if I did X, Y, and Z, I could be a 4 out of 10. I can grow. I'm not a fixed entity. So for us, the flying V, the efficiency, the drag coefficient, it is about getting people that are able to see both sides of the coin, right, and are not too fixed in one belief.
And is that something that you think that people, when you hire, that they come in with, or is that something that you teach?
You can interview for it, and you're going to be working with our company here in a couple months, starting with module 1. We don't currently use Colby in the hiring process because we haven't started working with you. So you can meet what we call someone's representative.
Yeah, okay.
Interviewing them.
That is so good. Can I use that?
Yeah, steal it all you want. It's like, it's the first date thing, right? You meet the best version of that person in that, anyone can fool anybody else for like an hour, and then it kind of falls apart after an hour, but interviews don't last that long. So you meet someone on their best behavior, who's dressed the best and is presenting the best version of themselves. So the answer is no. That's where the 30, 60, 90-day evaluations come in, and where they actually now put in, 8 weeks, 12 weeks of work, and the accumulation of what their output is, then you can actually judge that for itself. But you kind of have to, right now, I don't have the Colby magic dust. We have to use the human element of it's you just talk to people and you watch what they do and you watch how they talk to clients, and that's how we figured out.
I love it. You meet someone's representative. Man, that is classic. I love it.
I brought my lawyer, Mr. Cohen, to this date. All questions will need to be first addressed by Mr. Cohen.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. So, and to sort of summarize that a little bit, Ruben, is going back saying that the people, getting people flying the V formation, number one, they need to know where they're going, is what I heard from you. But number two is they need to see both sides. You have their perspective and the client's perspective always in mind.
It's from a management level at our company. It's very important to do that. Technicians, I'm a little I don't need as much of that. I just need them to be passionate and follow a system, right? And believe in the culture and what we're doing there. But for people that are coaching and training and teaching, and that are talking to clients because their technician did the wrong thing, said the wrong thing, they need to go into that conversation with the client with empathy, with the mindset that maybe what my tech did was not 100% what they should have done. And this client was affected by it, and I should be empathetic towards that feeling. Like, that is true customer service, right? The ability to say, you're right, Mrs. Johnson, we should not have done that. Our tech, had every intention of solving your issue and missed that thing. That must have made you feel like we didn't have it all together, but we're going to fix it right now, right? That conversation cannot happen unless you can have those two thoughts in your head at the same time.
When you said about even on the tech side of having passion, how do you instill passion into your people?
Well, someone who doesn't have any, you're screwed. So get those people out as quickly as possible. A lot of my competitors are guys that bought IT companies, right? It was an already existing company. The owner got, and wanted to sell. And so they're just like a business owner, no real emotional attachment. It's an investment. And one of our competitive edges is it's a owner operated. We built it from 0 employees to where it is now. And so I attract other people that are passionate. And so when you have someone with an overwhelming passion in a profession, someone that doesn't have it, it's like, yeah, they don't have it. Like, you don't, it's, you talked a lot about in your exercise, you don't know why you're doing this. You're just doing it. Your cognitive state. I have a cognitive ability to be like, that person cares about this, or that person doesn't, right? I would rather hire someone who has less technical ability and more passion and train them on the technical side. than the opposite of that.
Right.
Because it's like, it's exhausting to work with other people that are not rowing in the same direction. So that is my advice to everyone. It's probably pretty basic advice, is work with people that give a shit. At least a little bit, right? If they can still clock out at 5 and you don't hear from them the next day, but if they're passionate 8 to 5, the technical side of things, they can obviously be trained on.
But yeah, no, that's great advice, actually, and we're going to get to that again. You're preempting, but interesting enough though, and it's something you said, as I attract those people, and I, looking back to you starting Darkhorse, one of your major drivers is you wanted to create more of an intimate business model.
Yes. Yeah.
So, which is passionate.
Is passionate, and you also have to be realistic. How passionate you can be when you're 5 people, and how passionate you can be, I mean, as a whole entity, at 70 is not the same thing.
Right.
So there is some of this where it's like the business owner's dilemma of, you're doing an A+ product, but you're getting really busy, you need to hire somebody. How do you reconcile passion and that employee's not going to do as good of a job as you? And it's that's where systems and process and all that stuff comes in. That is, not necessarily the most fun stuff to do.
For some
people love that stuff. Me, as someone who wants to habitually step over the line and blow shit up and, test and poke and prod, I can get into that mindset. But as you mentioned with the battery, the battery pack, my battery pack for that doesn't last very long. I can do it in the morning for brief, an hour. I can write an SOP guide, a manual, whatever, and then it's gone. It's like, I got to go do something else.
Yep.
So I might have meandered us here. Of course, again, how our issue is, and I'm reading a book called Culture Code right now, and basically the whole premise is collisions, right? Culture is about people bumping into each other, and sparking these ideas and magical conversations. And unfortunately, we are dominated by a remote workforce, right? Part of it is IT. Part of it is, we used to have 20 people in the office, and then COVID happened. And then it was that push and pull of getting people back into the office. And, the labor market is so insane that if you push people too much, they'll just go to your competitor. That's still here. I mean, unemployment's basically 0%, right? The unemployable. That's where the rate is. So culture, more than anything, is one of the bigger emphases we put on, because we're already starting from a place where we're trying to have meaningful relationships over Zoom, over Teams, over Slack, and it's not the same. So what are the things you can do to at least, you need to try. You can't just give up, right? You give up and then your culture, but you cannot take your eye off of that you have to be always focused on it. And, that's obviously exhausting in its own way, but it's, because it's like a touchy feely, non-tangible,
Sure.
Hey, let's do a virtual happy hour on Zoom. And you're like, oh yeah, that's going to mean a +1% engagement on our next survey. It's like, it's not measurable. You kind of just have to do the stuff and hope that you're doing a better job than your competitors.
Yeah. But that's true though. And I think, let's say, what's the ROI on happy hour? Well, it's right, really. But we, as we tend in business, we tend to go, what's the numbers? But people's, the energy and passion and caring and empathy and all those things are unmeasurable. But that's where value comes in my opinion.
The number one thing I have learned, and I haven't heard anyone else specifically say this before, so I'm going to take credit for it until I get, I see a date, is benefit of the doubt. That is the number one thing that I see that has gone away in new relationships. Like someone that started at this company that I've trained, co-traveled with, it's there, right? The person, their family, what their outlook on life is. You give them the benefit of the doubt, the person. But 2 people that have never met before, that only communicate over text, there is no benefit of the doubt, right? Because there is no relationship. That is the number one thing we're fighting. Is the example, the classic example is sales and service. Sales sold something, service needs to install it. Service thinks sales didn't quote the whole thing, and service gets pissed off at sales. But that is because those guys don't know each other. They've never really spoke over a Zoom call, probably even over a normal phone call. It's all text or email. And it's unfortunately something that is the devil that we're trying to fight, is employee A, employee B. You guys need to know each other, right? Because if you know each other and you see something that's like, I don't think that's right, you have two choices. You can complain to the whole company about it. That doesn't sound very good. Or because you have developed a relationship with that person, you call them up and be like, hey, Bob, what the hell? He's like, oh man, sorry, I meant to do that. I couldn't do it. Oh, that's okay. Those are literally the two things that happen. And that's one of the most exhausting things, is trying to fight that, right? And get people to talk.
So I'm so glad you said that, because it goes back to the term that I coined, is cultural dissonance, right? And dissonance is two waves of energy, right, that clash, and no one intended to do it. The clash occurred because it's just two waves that don't align. And no one set out to, sales didn't set out to throw a hand grenade into service, right? But yet it occurred, and yet I think you're exactly right, is that because they don't have a relationship, they didn't talk, or just over text, there's no emotion there, and that dissonance occurs, and everybody just, instead of actually talking to the person, they talk about the person, right? And and complaining is not a strategy.
No, and you don't want people like, it's hard because you don't want people like that in your there's a, if someone just is a complainer by nature, you just don't want them in your company. But then there's the, why are they complaining? And it always comes back to that. It always comes back to, oh, this person did that, they screwed up. Yeah, they're on your team. We're all on the same team. What happened? Call them. They're fine. Like, yeah, everyone call each other, love each other. I don't know, just pick up the phone. But that is a battle because of the millennial, Gen Z, and no one wants to talk to each other. No one, don't leave a voicemail, just text me type deal.
Yeah,
I get it. I don't like getting voicemails either. But at the same time, if I sold something and there's one of our guys is on site, and I didn't quote a wall mount for a TV, and now they're talking to the doctor and taking the heat from that, call me. Like, put me on the phone with the doctor. I will tell him it's my fault. I'll take the heat off of you. That is not for you to handle. And customer service. I don't know what else to say.
All right. Okay, perfect. So moving on. This is great. I love this conversation. I knew this was going to be amazing. Yeah. So Reuben, what are you doing right now to better the pond? What ripples are you creating out there in the world? What are you doing to make the world a better place?
Well, as we talked kind of before we started recording, I'm very slanted in the work part of the work-life balance. So the ripples I create are mostly in industry, right? In the industry I'm in. And I have made it, I'm perceived in the industry as being a successful person, right? That's what people have told me enough times, right? I finally believe them, right?
And what about genius?
No one said that. Maybe they have. It just comes and goes. Like then I just think you're delusional. I have made it publicly and widely known I am available at any time for anybody to come to me and ask questions, not just internally, but in the industry. IT professionals, dentists that are struggling with business problems. My reputation is, my phone's always on. I'm interested. I'd love to solve problems. Let's get into the weeds. What are you struggling with? Let's go. So my version of the pond is, I'm trying to help other people, business owners, in multiple different segments. Heck, if it's even if it's a technician, right, that's working at a corporate job that doesn't know where to go to start their company, I'll help you draw out the framework for that. I'll give you the confidence to be like, yeah, well, your paycheck's not going to come in. You're going to have to figure out, health insurance for your own, but not pursuing this dream that you have is not acceptable. You have to do it. So my impact on the industry is just letting people know that I have the the mindset that there's enough for everybody around, right? There's always enough out there. It doesn't all need to be, for me, doesn't all need to be proprietary. I don't think what I do is I don't think a lot of people would want to do what I did. Right? The last 11 years has been a blur, and has been a lot of hard work. So I'm not disillusioned by that, but for me, what really gets me going is helping other people.
Kind of sounds like your dad's voice.
It does. I can't argue with that.
Yeah, that's very cool. So what is one lesson that you've learned along your journey, Reuben, that you would share with an entrepreneur starting a business today?
It's all hard. No one is going to help you out. And so you need to be very strong-willed, right? That the reason why you're doing it needs to be very clear. You need to be able to articulate it to someone else, right? It needs to be bubbling out of your body, like you can't contain it. The reason why you start a business, if you want it to be successful, I guess that is the caveat. Anyone can start a business and lose money.
Yep.
Lots of people do that. I think most people do that. Maybe most people do that.
Most people do that.
You need to tell me why you're doing this. And you probably should not be talking about work-life balance at that stage of starting the business. You should not be talking about, I'm starting this so that I can hire employees, so I can go on vacation. Those are not great reasons to start. Again, another caveat, a good business that serves the customers well. So number one, why are you doing it? If you can't answer that question, you need to go back to the drawing board.
Cool. I love it. Sage advice. All right. I have one last question for you, Reuben, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Okay.
Here you go. All right. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. If you were standing on top of a mountain and the whole world was intently listening to you, what would you say?
In the sage words of Aaron Rodgers, relax. That was the first thing that came to mind.
That's cool.
Calm down, listen to each other, take a beat. That is what I see from the mountaintop, looking down on everybody, is honestly what we just talked about with employees not talking to each other. Yeah, super easy to think that left-wing guy, that right-wing guy is just evil. Talk to him. You probably agree with 90% of the things out there in the world. Might not agree on the vaccine. You might not, whatever. Abortion, there's some hot topic stuff. Turns out if you talk to people, and you travel a lot for a living, right? So you sit next to people on airplanes and, you're pretty outgoing guy. Turns out most people have most things in common. So my way of saying that is relax.
Okay. That's very cool. Yeah. And you know what is funny is that if you really look back at your life and some of the things you got all worked up about, right? Number one, most of them never happened. Number two is they were never as bad as what you thought they were.
Never. No. Yeah. You just stare at that frog. That frog's coming. Yeah. Put a little Frank's hot sauce on that. That puppy will go right. That puppy gets gone.
I love it. All right. So there you have it, folks. I mean, we had a great time here with Reuben Kamp from Darkhorse Tech. If anyone wants to find you, Reuben, where do we go to find you? I want to get in contact with you.
Sure. Yeah, my email, because people have such a hard time spelling Reuben, I mean that seriously, is admin@darkhorsetech.com. Shoot me an email. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. If you want, if you're curious or you want, I run a couple peer groups, just peer therapy groups in this space for business owners to talk to each other. If you want to reach out, happy to help, as I mentioned, any problems you have. So not hiding. You can find me on all the interwebs, all the Twitters.
All the Twitters. See, like now there was your mom coming out, right? So I run these, little programs to help other people. So look at that. It's all
Hey,
it's all coming into fruition here.
I'm just a hybrid.
Here's the hybrid. So so anyway, well, I'll get all those all your handles and all those kind of things like that, where to reach you. We'll put that in the show notes so that people can reach you if they want to have a conversation, learn about Reuben, learn about Dark Horse, want to have a cold IPA, want to learn how to relax.
Yeah,
Right?
Zoom happy hour. I'm game.
All right.
No, Warren, thank you so much for having me on.
No, I really truly appreciate it. So this is Warren Barry, and I'm flocking off to take you beyond the pond to better the pond, because we're better together. Thank you so much, Reuben.
Yeah, thanks, Warren.